It's train time, starting now, right after this small intro.
Sponsored by CanadianModelRailroad.ca and by donations from patrons like you. And now on with the show with your hosts, Peter and Joe.
Well, Peter,
What time is it?
train time.
It's train time.
Season 4, episode 40.
Yeah, wow. Episode 40.
Time flies.
Time flies.
So, today we got the direct productions from Hawaii.
From the Big Island, Hawaii.
Yes, that you just visited.
Yep.
And we got a video on that. That's on the first segment.
Yep.
I encourage the viewer to stay on for the second segment because that's the second part from the last episode 39. We talk about conceptualizations.
Yes.
And this time we'll talk about the elements that make your railroad look alive.
The detailing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So also a little further, we got an update on the Transcona Railroad Museum.
Yep. Yes.
So that's where we're at. So, Peter, how was it in Hawaii?
Warm.
You didn't get a suntan.
Well, I got a bit of a suntan. I was using 60, UV protection, so I didn't burn. But I got a bit of a tan. Kind of lost the color already, but
You weren't there long enough.
well, 3 weeks. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
So you had the chance to see the Railway Museum.
Yes.
Now, they don't have any more train running in there.
No, there's no trains running on the Big Island, but this segment that we're going to be showing is on the Hawaiian Consolidated Railway,
Right.
and it ran originally. It was called the Hilo Railway Company. It ran from Hilo on the Big Island up to the area of the museum at LAUPAHOEHOE.
LAUPAHOEHOE.
And it serviced all of the sugarcane plantations up in that area. And it, just to give an intro to it, it not only carried sugarcane, it also was a passenger service.
Oh.
And that railway was a standard gauge. In other parts of the island, they were narrow gauge.
Okay.
So, and it ran from 1899 to 1946.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in 1946, there was a tsunami hit the island and destroyed a lot of the trackage, wiped out some bridges. The port of Hilo was also heavily damaged with the tsunami, and the cost of rebuilding the railway was so expensive that they just shut it down and started selling the stuff off for scrap. So basically the line ended in 1946 because of a natural disaster.
When you talk about the Port of Hilo that got destroyed, that was where the sugar cane was loaded into boats and so on.
Yeah, so it was
the
carrying
transitions from the boat to the train.
Yeah, it was carrying. There's still an old railway roundhouse in Hilo.
Okay.
I think it's probably in our slideshow. It's being used for some other purpose, but Hilo was kind of the end of the line, so there was the roundhouse there for the steam locomotives to, turn around and.
So they never had diesel in there.
No.
Always steam.
It was always, as far as I know, it was always steam, and of course it ended in 1946. But there was a number of sugar plantations up in that area, as well as other parts of the island, and we'll be looking at that in another segment.
Right.
But this Highway 19 that we take, to go up to LAUPAHOEHOE, parts of it were built on the old roadbed.
Okay.
And you can still see some of the abandoned rail bridges that cross over the highway, and even some of the bridges that are now highway bridges were originally rail bridges. So it's it's a lost part of their history, but this group, and it's not a very big group, got together and decided, hey, we're losing all of this, let's build a museum and
Preserve the heritage.
and preserve the heritage. And in talking to Doug, who we met at the museum, he's their treasurer, he said, you have no idea when you open a museum what you're getting into. So, but they've done a very good job of collecting stuff. So if we want to go ahead and we'll jump into the video, we'll have a little tour of the LAUPAHOEHOE Museum.
Let's get into the video, folks, about the LAUPAHOEHOE rail.
There's a caboose and an explosives car. But as we pan around the grounds, you're going to end up seeing a few of the artifacts that they've accumulated. The building that I originally thought here as the station is actually the station master agents, and the original station is just to the left of it in front of where that shed is. That's where the original station was. So now we are inside the station master's residence, and as we look around, we see certainly a number of artifacts and photographs. They've got a huge collection, and this is actually one of the bedrooms, probably one of the kids' bedrooms, but they've got it set up like an office with some of the old, like the desk and stuff. And again, just loads of pictures from the time period when the plantations were in operation. Here's the washroom that's attached. You can still see the old fixtures. And then as we move through the doorway, we're into the front entrance and looking at the dining room. This is the front door. And again, as I said, they've managed to collect a number of artifacts. You can see a train bell and whistle there. And we're just going to pan around here, and here we are that's my sister-in-law. This is another bedroom, which they actually use as their store, and they sell t-shirts and, touristy things from their little store there. Now we're going into the kitchen area, and this is my brother and Doug. They're looking at some artifacts on the shelves and having a bit of a discussion. But again, this is the kitchen area for the family that lived in the building, in the residence. And again, loads and loads of photographs. They've really done a very good job of setting up the rooms so that you can kind of get an idea of what it was, like living as a station master family and on the railway. We're now moving into the dining room area, which is nicely set up as well. Old piano. And from what Doug was telling us, I mean, they've had all sorts of donations from people, some not necessarily directly related to the area, and I'll mention that more when we get outside too, because there's a couple of things outside that I thought were part of the original operation of the station. Anyways, they have organized a lot of their photographs into different categories. Like up here on the wall, there's working on the railway segment. There's one of their rotary stands has got like bridges that were on the railway. We're now moving into what would have been the master bedroom, and some of the clothes, vintage clothes in the closet there. And again, loads and loads of photographs of that time period when plantations were in full operation. This one, like I mentioned, is Bridges. But they've done a really bang-up job. We did have some difficulty getting connected. It took us 3 tries to get into the museum. They were having some problems with their webmaster is in hospital, so their website was giving wrong information as to what the museum times were, and so we finally connected on the Friday before we were leaving Hawaii to get the interior of the residence. And again, like I said, oodles of different, if you're ever on the big island of Hawaii, check it out. We were at a resort near Kona. This is more towards the Hilo side of the island, the east side. Kind of the northeast side of the island. But again, there's layout inside the house. It's they've done a really good job in artifacts and descriptions. It doesn't show the detail in the video, but they've got all the pictures are labeled with what's in it and how it related to the railway, basically. Gives you an idea of, back in that time period, what it was like, as a train master and the family living along the railway. So, and now we're out on the grounds, and there's this donkey engine and caboose. I thought the caboose was part of this particular railway, but apparently it was donated from the mainland, and they put it out there. You can also see the trackage there. It's both standard gauge and narrow gauge. This is the backyard, and this rail line goes down into the foliage there and actually forms a Y that comes out to the left side. We'll pan over there in a little while. But the museum is, as you can see, has got both the narrow gauge and the standard gauge, even though this area was just standard gauge. And of course, when we first saw this explosives car, we thought it was part of the operation. That was a donation from the U.S. military. And like I said, Doug had mentioned that, you say you've got a museum and people say, well, I've got this, would you like it in the museum? And things like, this is an old road grader, and even like model trains and stuff. This is where the Y would have come out to the left here. And like Doug was saying, their big problem is having enough volunteers to clear the foliage, because it grows so fast on the island that it's hard to keep the tracks clear, because they actually had that donkey engine running, and they would run up and down the lines. These are some of the artifacts that are around outside and inside. And this is an old sugarcane warehouse that is now used by, I believe, the Highways Department. That's the original station, and that's a painting of the original station. So I hope that you enjoyed the tour. It was fun putting it together. We got a lot of information, and like I say, there is just oodles of photographs in there that you can look at. I forget how long we spent there, but it was fun. It was nice to see.
Well, that was interesting, Peter.
Yes, yeah, we had fun visiting there. It was, like I said, it took us 3 tries to get in, but
Well, but can you imagine the train crew even had direct correspondence
yeah,
from Hawaii.
yeah,
So we go a little bit of everywhere.
yep.
Folks, now is the time for the photo of the months and the view from above. Enjoy. In segment 2, we'll have another video talking about elements
Elements,
on a layout.
yes. And this is carrying from our last
Show
show
episode
of
39.
conceptualization.
Yeah.
Yep.
Conceptualization is the first step.
Yep.
Well, after all your tracks are done and the base and so on, you start to put concept together, how some scenes should be and so on. Now, after that is done and you're satisfied with the conceptualization, you go to the elements.
Yes.
Now, we'll explain what the elements are in that video.
Yep.
So, without waiting any further, let's go see.
Let's go see.
Welcome again. In this segment, episode 40, we're talking about elements that you put on your layout. These elements is what build the scenes to make your layout come into a final point, you know, all the details and so on. Last episode, on episode 39, we talk about concept, the conceptualization of a scene, which is the first things that you do. On that, let's look at exactly what happened since we show you how to conceptualize a scene. Now, if you remember, when we show you those buildings on the last episode, you will notice that behind those buildings now, where we're pointing, is a backdrop. The backdrop, well, it's all made from color pictures, and it goes all along, following, and that's what create the perspective that it's way bigger than in reality it is. Now, when you start to look at the elements, that is the first elements that you want to put in, is your backdrop. The second elements that you put in is the location of your buildings, which you already had a concept of. So the buildings, as you notice, are not straight to the view. They are all with an angles. So you don't have a direct view, so you have to move from one step to another to be able to see all the scenes that are involved. Now, we'll come back a little later in here on the scene. Now, when you have that established, you come in and your roads have been in place, and your backdrop is in place, your buildings are in place, temporarily the time you do the scenery, you're talking about trees. Now, trees are very, very important, you know, because the trees that we have in this specific scenes is, they are wheat called goldenrods that they have been painted with oil and then hairspray, and after the hairspray we put the leaves on and so on, and then we plant them all. So that's the second element, the third element I might say, that you put on your layout. But a layout, a model railroad layout, is not just about trees and building and trains, it's also about vehicles. So you want to have many different vehicles all around, placed in strategic locations, so that you can at that point have some life on your layout. As you can see, we got quite a few of them on this layout. Now, creating a natural view blocks inside, you will notice at the end of that street is a tractor trailer that is for dry cement that will go to the cement plant, which is one of the industry of that village. When we come back out a little bit on the outskirt of the village, we encounter the cemetery. Now the cemetery, when I was talking about detailing a scene, is exactly what it is. We have a funeral. We have all the tombstone with the flowers on the front of it, the fence, the gates, and now we can see those guys pushing the car to go to the garage. That is right there. And behind is the police that escort them. So this specific cemetery is part of it on a lift out. On the lift out, we see on the forefront a house. And you got a motorcycle that is there. And behind it, we got the farm. The farm is super details. As I remember through my memories, you see the garden with the sheep behind, and you see the forest behind, which create a view block, and that view block you can see through the trees the train station. In the same farm, when you talk about details, you can look at, example, the chicken here in the chicken coop, you know, and the turkey and the geese, and you see the grandfather talking to me, and you see the aunt that come in from the garden with a basket full of produce, the dogs. You can see the other aunt that is coming in from the well with a bucket of waters. And then you get into the barn itself and the horses, the apple trees, and then you go and you see the pigs in the pig pens, and the old car of my uncle that was there, kind of abandoned. And then to complete the scene, you have the cows that are in the pasture, you know, with their calves. Now you notice where the fence is rocks on both sides, so that was the rocks that the grandfather had picked up. You have the same thing on the other side, where you can see those rock fence that were there. You know, that is the crop field beside the road. And the gravel road that come in on the front of the properties, you know. You see the mailbox and people sitting on the porch. And that gravel roads will go to what is not developed yet in here, which is still under the conceptualizations of where the quarry will be. So when you talk about detailing, is never enough details. Now on the farm we have a combination of trees. The tree that I'm showing you right now, that is a super tree. That's from Woodland Scenic. And the others behind are the trees that made with goldenrod. So when you really look at the whole scene per se, you will notice that nothing is straight. Nothing. Every road, depending on how you look at, bring you to a different scene. The store, the stop, that road also that is not totally straight. And when you bring the element of your train running, that's what it looked like, you know. Each of those trees and these scenes that you see, and the scene within the scene,
give you the opportunity at that point of making your train look a whole lot longer. You don't need a long train, you need a train that is just long enough so that as it passes, you see it, you lose it, you see it, and you lose it. Then you got the natural view blocks in here that I'm showing you where the locomotive is. That is in between the New Brunswick, where is the mine and the loading, coal loadings, and then it just in a fluid motions transit into the village, which will also in a fluid motion transit into Sudbury and the nickel mine. So I hope it gives you some idea on how to detail a scene and how to create a scene within a scene. Another example in the garage. Now, the last element that you will be put in is people. Such in here as the garage, you see the car with the hood open, you will have a mechanic that is changing the oil and so on, another one that's filling up the car. So that is the other part. So you add on your figures so that they create a story and tell you the story of that village. And on the front here, which is right now under construction, is where the scrapyard will be and an abandoned quarries. So the scene is slowly taking place, and then it gradually transits with the coal loaders. So I hope you enjoyed that little segment, and
That's
till next
what
time.
Elements is all about.
Yes, and it's turned out very, very good. It's amazing the detail that you can build into.
You got to have scenes that are fluid to one another.
Yes.
That's the secret.
Yep.
You know, and especially on the CMR layout, we go from one province to another to another.
Yep.
So we have to have natural view blocks to separate all those scenes and so on. You know, definitely what we were looking at today is still not complete.
No, there's still
You know.
still some work to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of details to still have to get onto it, but that is part of the game, and we hope it gives the viewer an idea of how to build some scene and scene within the scene and so on and so on. And it's never enough details, Peter.
No, and you also mentioned the view blocks between the main scenes, but within those individual scenes,
You got a ton of natural view blocks.
as you look at the village, I mean, different angles give you a different view down different alleyways through trees or roadways. So you have a number of different smaller view blocks within the scene.
Yeah, because it's some place that you don't see the scene.
Yep.
You move a little bit, then you see the scene, but you don't see
You
the
don't see
others
the
and
one.
so on.
Yep.
And that's why, you know, when we were talking to people about building scenes, how important it was to move around to be able to create that.
Yes.
So, anyway, you know the Transcona Railroad Museum here in Winnipeg.
Yes.
Their shed for the locomotive is really going up.
Oh, good. Yes.
You know?
I haven't seen it recently, but
Well, I got 4 pictures that would be running up right now
okay.
that show the progress of that. They're still doing their fundraisers.
Yes, that's an
because-
ongoing. But yeah, they've started construction.
But the concept that they had, that they show during the start of their fundraiser, and where it's at now, it's very much so the same. You
Okay,
know, the
good.
renditions of the architects to build that was very good, and it definitely would be a plus for that museum.
Yes, and it's the original idea. For those that may not remember when we first talked about it, was a protective structure for the locomotives to get it out of the weather.
Exact.
but yet be open enough for people to have a close look inside the train cab and
Exactly.
that type of thing. So,
And that they have a look after all of that, and they did a fantastic job. Sometime this summer, I don't know which month it will be, we more than likely will go and visit them at the museum and bring you a report on that.
Yep.
So, and also I like to mention, Peter, that we'll have a special show. It would be titled at that point episode 27 because that one was missing. That one would be entirely about the museum in Alberta
yes.
where your brother is.
Yes, he's involved with the Alberta Railway Museum, and along with the trip to Hawaii, we managed to get some footage at the museum. So
That's perfect. So folks, that's it for this month. We hope
you
to
enjoy.
see you in episode 41 for May, and we hope you enjoy the segments and the content of our video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. We're looking for that. And till then, have a happy model railroading.
happy modeling.